It is my honor to say that joining me today to discuss some of Israel's security operations is former head of the Mossad security agency from 1996 to 98 and former Labor Party Knesset member Major General Danny Yatom. Thank you so much for coming in today.
You're welcome.
All right, so we'll get right to it. My first question is about how Israel has recently struck over the border of Syria, ISIS and Hezbollah targets. Are our enemies being emboldened? Are they forcing our hand?
Firstly, it is important to say that what we know about those last bombings, as well as the bombings since 2013, is from foreign sources, because Israel never denied or took responsibility. So assume that Israel did it according to Arab sources. Then this is part of what should be the Israeli defensive policy, which says that we will not tolerate and we will not wait until the enemy will knock on our doors and will bomb us with new types of missiles. And when the Israeli establishment, military and security establishment, and prime minister as well, they come to the conclusion that it is something that rolls towards Israel and has potential of big damage, then we will do our utmost in order to block it, in order to thwart it. This is the way we also treat terrorists. We do not wait until they will knock on our doors. We try to eliminate them as far as possible behind the borders of Israel.
So you're saying that these were preemptive attacks?
Yes, you can call it preemptive attacks, meaning before they attacking us, if it is true, yes, then we are attacking them. This is preemptive, yes.
Okay, and then you kind of touched upon, the fact that there are foreign sources feeding this violence. Who are the foreign sources?
We know that the sources that claim that Israel is behind the last attacks that occurred 2 days ago, or less than 2 days ago, are Syrian sources and some other Arab sources. Now, yes, you touch something very interesting, because till nowadays, till today or till yesterday, the Syrian always use the space of deniability in order to not to blame Israel, and in order to not to give it a high
like the satisfaction.
Yeah, a high attention. And what's going this time is a little bit bothering, because if the Syrians voluntarily went and published that Israel is behind the attack, it means that they want to signal to us that, yes, they know, as they think, yes, they know who is behind it, and that they keep their right to retaliate whenever they will decide.
And so just to be clear, when you say Syrian forces and Syrian news agencies, these are pro-Assad agencies?
I'm speaking about the Assad regime.
The Assad regime itself?
The Assad regime itself, yes.
All right,
the Assad regime and the Russians, which are involved in Syria since September 2015, they did not respond.
So that actually brings me exactly into my next question, is that with the Russians now involved with the Assad regime and aiding them, how does Israel operate in Syria without causing an international fiasco?
Well, firstly, it was published many times that there is a sort of communication, not coordination, but communication between the Israeli Defense Forces and the Russian forces deployed in Syria. in order to avoid any mistakes and in order to avoid and prevent any clashes between us and the Russian forces. We do not want such claims, and they do not want such claims. So whenever somebody plans to do something, either in Lebanon or in Syria, those planners have to take into consideration the fact that there is a presence of Russians with highly sophisticated weapon systems, like anti-air missiles, the S-300 and the S-400, and some other weapon systems and radars of many, many kinds that can intercept Israeli aeroplanes while flying above in a Lebanese space or in a Syrian space. So we have to take it into consideration once we plan to attack targets in Lebanon or in Syria. Yes.
So, okay, so we know that Russian forces are not the only new players, or I call them new players in Syria. There's also Iranian forces, the IRGC, and their monetary and physical support for terror groups that are all around the Middle East. So we know that Iran is emboldening itself and that they're expanding their powers. What actions can be taken to limit Iran's expansion?
Firstly, we have to remember that the intervention of Iran started many, many years ago, even before the agreement that they achieved concerning their nuclear activity with the Europeans and the United States. But since this agreement, no doubt that they deepened and they enlarged their intervention. They support Iran, as I used to say, and I will say today as well, Iran is the source of all the problems and the source of all the troubles. They assist Shiites in Iraq, they assist the Assad regime, they assist the Hezbollah that fights today shoulder to shoulder with the Assad regime, but used to attack Israel and probably will return to attack Israel and tries from time to time to warm up the situation, either in the Golan Heights or in Lebanon, close to the border between Lebanon and Israel. We have to look at it. We have to follow the Iranians. We have to gather intelligence on the Iranians, the way we are gathering intelligence about any other threats and any other enemies of us. And we have to make sure by persuading the world that the world will keep an eye on Iran and that the world will make sure, the world, the United States of America, Russia, all those that signed the treaty, the agreement, the nuclear agreement with Iran, they should make sure that Iran will not seize the opportunity once there are any sanctions over Iran, that Iran will not seize this opportunity in order to harm more the democratic forces, including Israel. And of course, we have our capabilities to defend ourselves.
So, I know that Israel is far from the only country that is concerned about Iran's expansion. We also have other Sunni Muslim states, especially states like Saudi Arabia, that are as deeply concerned as anybody. Is that changing the relationship between Israel and the Middle East and Arab states?
The answer is yes. There are some developments that change today and started to change the Middle East since something like 5 years ago, since the Arab Spring, so to speak. Firstly, the fact that the Arab regime collapsed, like the regime of Mubarak, like the regime in Tunisia, in Yemen, the civil war in Syria. This is one development. The second development is ISIS. ISIS is a threat not only to Israel, but also to Jordan, to Saudi Arabia, to Egypt, to all the, so to say, moderate states. And the third development is the development concerning Iran. The Saudis are concerned, and the other states are concerned as well. There is the Shiite axis led by Iran, and the Sunnite axis led by Saudi Arabia. So what we see today is a new realm, a new realism. Israel and those countries like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and others share mutual interests. And I think that it is only a question of time until it won't be only a mutual concern, but also there will be some development which will bring us, all of us, to hold hands and to try and to cope against those threats that all of them are aimed against us and against the others.
Well, there is nothing like a common enemy to bring people together. I hope that the relations, as you say, go way far, further beyond just preventing terrorism and other violence. And thank you. I want to thank you again so much for coming in today.
You're welcome.
It was my pleasure, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.